Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. I'm Christina. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to a gloomy day in Berlin. It is really dark and I've already filmed 2 videos today. Well, actually 3, but I had to repeat one video because no audio. Yeah, huge technical issues. And not because I forgot to start the audio recording. I hope it goes better this time. I can actually see that there is audio, so that is good. But it's really dark outside today. It's January in Berlin, and you might not be able to see me that well. I have some cheap LED lights up, but they're not doing that much. That is why we're going to react to a podcast today, where we just have to listen. So there will not be a lot of visual, but the audio is going to be interesting. This is a podcast from somebody who is in a multi-level marketing company, who was at the tippity top of her company, and she, over the course of the last year, I would say, so over the course of 2023, started to venture into other business activities besides the multi-level marketing company. She is in Monat. She was or is an SED, Senior Executive Director. That is the top rank within the company. And because Monat is tanking so hard, I believe that a lot of people who are at the top ranks or who were at the top ranks, they're looking for other streams of income. The ones they're always proclaiming they're having, yes, now they have to take a look at that because their lavish lifestyle needs to be financed. And if Monat is crumbling and lots of people are leaving Monat, the distributors are leaving Monat as we're speaking, then they also need to find new ways of income. This is an example of somebody who really doesn't push Monat that often anymore on her social media. Maybe she's letting this fade out a bit, but she's focusing on other streams of income, like coaching, for example, giving advice on how to have a more attractive Instagram, and you could book her for that. And in the course of this rebrand, she also launched a podcast. The podcast she runs together with her husband is called Trust Issues. This is an episode about toxic hustle culture. Thought this could be a nice entree, if you will, into the topic of toxic hustle culture in multi-level marketing companies. And this is kind of the first installment to that. If you hear other noise, by the way, apologies. Because it is a really cold and gloomy day, everybody is at home today, and everybody has visitors, the people above me and the people below me as well. And there are lots of kids around. They're screaming, and they're fighting, and they're chanting. So if you hear weird noise, it could be my crappy audio. It could be the crappy audio of the Trust Issues podcast or my neighbors. It's going well for me today. I will not fall into the trap of toxic hustle culture today because I'm really tired. And after this video, I will lounge on the couch and eat cookies and iced coffee. That's my goal for today. It really is. So this could be like an entree into the topic of toxic hustle culture and MLMs, where in my opinion, the consistent hustle is promoted to an extreme and people are really working 24/7 in the hopes that they will be able to achieve something that the business model will not grant them. Toxic hustle culture means that you hustle to a degree that you're working towards a burnout, you don't take time for yourself, you're not setting limitations for yourself, and you do not stop yourself before you burned out. That is something that is being promoted in multi-level marketing companies very, very often, and it's being regarded as something positive, right? Get up at 4 a.m., you have 30 children, you go to church every single day, you have a full-time job, you need to support your husband who has a super dangerous job. You can do all of that, no excuses. That is something that we hear a lot. That is why the topic of toxic hustle culture is something that I find really interesting. This is somebody, like I said, who is a senior executive director or was. I'm not sure if she still is. And she's not promoting her MLM business that much. But she was also someone who promoted the toxic hustle culture very much. She was able to build a big enough team. She was able to join Monat really, really early. Not in the pre-launch phase, but early. She was able to profit off of the pandemic and the growth that Monat also saw throughout the pandemic when lots of distributors joined Monat in the hopes that they were able to make a substantial income. And now she is able to profit off of the efforts of the people in her downline who are allegedly now doing a lot of work for her, because once you hit the higher ranks, you have time freedom, you have financial freedom. At least that's what the Huns promise us. I don't think that is the case, but that is the setup for this video. So let's take a listen to the podcast, hopefully only to the podcast and not to my noisy neighbors, and see what she has to say as somebody who I believe is currently venturing out of MLMs. This is a video, or this is a podcast that was filmed in June of 2023, and that was when she was in the progress of not promoting Monat that heavily. I will have to change the intro for copyright reasons. I will pitch it, and then afterwards the sound will be as it is on the podcast. But because of potential copyright claims when it comes to the music, I do not want to take any risks. But then I will switch to the normal pitch and to the normal speaking voices that they're using on this podcast.
See, it's stuff like this that gives me trust issues.
Welcome to the Trust Issues podcast. We have trust issues with the traditional society-dictated path, with the status quo, with the whole get an education, land a job, and work tirelessly until you're 6 feet under. It's time to upgrade your life with the help of us. I'm Erica.
And I'm Kyle Auckland. We're a husband and wife duo, but we're also entrepreneurs, biohackers, and business builders.
Every week, we're dedicated to having purposeful conversations with each other and leading experts on topics like wellness, relationships, and entrepreneurship.
Subscribe to Trust Issues Podcast if you're looking for bold topics, honest dialogue, and valuable lessons.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Trust Issues Podcast with me, Kyle Auckland, and...
Hi, I'm Erica Auckland.
Yes. And today we're doing kind of an off-the-cuff episode.
Yeah, no
right?
notes.
No notes.
We're just going to jam on.
Just kind of wing it. And why don't you tell them what our topic is here?
My favorite. We're going to talk about toxic hustle culture.
Yes.
We're going to talk about hustle. We're going to talk about the grind. We're going to talk about, I think, what our society tries to tell people is like, chill out, sit down, don't work so hard.
Yes.
And I think there's like a whole sweeping narrative right now that everyone's like, hustle is toxic.
Yes.
Is it really? Is hustle actually toxic? Like, let's talk about it. So we want to talk about it. We want to give our perspective as two people who do love to hustle and we do love the grind, but also we understand when you need to take a minute of rest because there's seasons.
There definitely is burnout. There definitely
it's real. We've both been there before.
Yes.
So let's talk about it.
Okay. So my personal opinion with
I'm excited to hear your opinion because I feel like I always talk and I never shut up, and you need to talk about this.
Well, okay. So the number one thing I think with any type of hustling, right, no matter what it is, you can enter a toxic situation if it's working out in your business, in your relationship, whatever it is, right?
Two sides of the same coin.
Yes. You can put way too much movement or work into something where it's like the first thing you got to start realizing is, okay, pause. If you're in a spot where you're like, my wheels are spinning constantly, I'm burnt out, I'm not producing the results, you need to pause, zoom out, and be like, why are you doing this again? What are your goals? Why are you even in this, spinning wheel of where you're at? Like, why did you get to this point? And a lot of people don't. What really happens is they hit that point and they immediately go to everyone who's either following them or around them, and they go, this isn't working, I'm done, this is a waste of time. Like, this is bad, toxic, rest, and they start preaching that way, where it's like, internally deal with it first. Like, hey, why are you in this position? What are your goals?
Was it a lack of self-awareness or boundaries, maybe, perhaps?
Yes, absolutely.
I have to say I agree. Don't give up. If you realize that something goes wrong and that you might be working yourself into the ground and towards a burnout, take a step back, reassess, take different actions, and maybe that action is to take a step back. Maybe you need to reorganize your life, but it doesn't mean that you automatically have to give up. But for some people, rest is important. So I don't think it can be such a general statement, such a generalized statement, but I don't disagree. Yes, figure out why you are working towards a burnout, what is going wrong. Don't give up, but reorganize whatever you're doing behind the scenes so that you can continue to do what you want to do. And set up the things behind the scenes differently before you reach the point of exhaustion.
And I think it's like, that's where you need to start first before you kind of just turn around and say something doesn't work or this isn't going on. Because it's like, I know even for us, like, our goals change all the time.
Yeah.
And if you are crazy hustling for a goal that you're not really that as passionate about, maybe you were, that's where you can
Well,
pivot.
I also feel like when you think about the bigger picture and what you're actually focused on, we're so focused on right now. We're really building We just came out of a season of like postpartum, having our first baby, and now we're really honestly back in a very hustle energy.
A build.
We're in a build.
Yeah. It's
and even this show, like, let's just be serious. Like this show, the things that have to happen for this show to happen, we got to coordinate childcare.
Yep.
We have our producers here in the room. We got Christy and Courtney.
Yes.
We have so many things that had to happen. It's a financial investment. We have so many things that we like on paper. For a lot of people, it wouldn't have worked out because there's a lot of obstacles or hurdles that we had to like overcome to make this happen. But we knew that this was our up level.
Yes.
We knew that this is what we wanted to do in order to get to the next place in our careers and in our life. And right now it's a little grindy, you know.
Yes.
We're recording 3 times this week, you know. It's we're in it and I'm here for it. It's so much fun. But like I zoom out and I'm like, what am I doing this for? I'm not doing this for fans. I'm not doing this for more recognition. I'm not doing this to be popular or famous. I'm doing this to help people.
Yes.
I'm doing this to further our goals and our dreams. I know that we want generational wealth for our family.
Yep.
We would also love to network with more people through this show. I'm so excited to see the people that we meet because we put ourselves out there in this way.
100%.
So it's like, if you're doing something for the wrong reasons, you're going to burn out. That is toxic.
Yes.
Know and understand why you sometimes need to work hard. Yes, that is something that I agree with. But in the context of multi-level marketing, which she has, as somebody who was or is in Monate, that is a context that I disagree with. They haven't spoken about the multi-level marketing aspect of this yet. Maybe she's coming to this in the future. But with the MLM context, I disagree. Because in the MLM, your why, your reason, has to be so big it needs to scare you. Why do you want to join an MLM? And those can never be small goals. What is your big why, your big grand why? And that always has to be a super impressive and super scary why, so that you know why you have to hustle hard in a multi-level marketing company. The why in multi-level marketing companies has to be scary so that you do not stop when you start to realize that the system is not set up in your favor, but that you're not getting money back easily. People will not buy from you easily. It is hard to make people join your downline. And the why has to be big and scary so that you do not stop what you're doing, not for your own benefit, but for other people's benefits. When the bigger picture in most cases is, I need more money, that's why I joined the MLM. And most people in MLMs don't make money. Over 99% of people in multi-level marketing companies will lose money. So if you think about that from a realistic standpoint, if you actually took a step back and you actually considered, you would have to leave the business opportunity, the business model, because most people simply do not make money in that system. That's how the system is set up. The likelihood of people making money in Monate are also slim to none, where over 91% of the people make some $30 per year. And if you really thought about this and who are not caught up in this toxic hustle culture, hustle around the clock to achieve your ginormous why, then they would leave the company and they would have to take another job where they would be able to make an actual income. And as they said, they have this podcast now because they want to help other people, which is bullshit in my opinion. This is, especially in the MLM world, just a way for trying to trick people into joining your team so that you can profit off of them. And I don't doubt that they want to do this to network with other people, especially if specifically she is venturing into new business opportunities like coaching now, aside the multi-level marketing company. But I also wonder if this podcast is also still an opportunity to connect to people, to try to recruit them into Monate or to make a sale here or there, although it doesn't seem to be the focus of her everyday life anymore. And the reason why I ask myself this is because I've already heard a lot of buzzwords here that we typically hear in MLMs, like creating generational wealth.
If you're doing something for the wrong reasons, you're going to burn out. That is toxic.
Yes.
But if you're working hard for the right reasons, flip the narrative.
Yes.
Like, because it's worth it.
Yes. No, that everything you said right there is so good.
But you can also burn out for the right reasons. That's what I meant with a why. Your why has to be so big and it has to be so scary. Burnout doesn't stop because you work towards something that you consider as a good reason. I've been working in the media industry now for over 20 years, and I am now focusing and specializing for the past over 10 years at this point on compliance and in youth protection. But before that, I started in the actual production of content. And I was working for a production company where a colleague and I were moved to a different department within the company because the old department in a way was shut down. The contracts were always connected to certain projects, and because the broadcaster decided that they didn't want to continue to air a certain show, we were all moved within the company to new colleagues, to new departments, and we were working on a different project. It was a fun project. I learned a lot. I have never learned as much as I did there, but it was quite scary because we were working on a show where we just had a couple of red episodes available, or rather the person that was doing that before us. And we got this handed over, and the information was, well, you have about a week's worth of episodes, so you need to make this work somehow, which resulted in us pretty much working for almost 6 weeks straight. We were working long hours, we were working on the weekends, and that was quite exhausting. It was over the summertime, other people were on vacation, they were enjoying their life, and that would have been a situation, working like this in that rhythm, where we could have easily burned out. And the why would have been a good why. It would have been a good opportunity for me to show how good I can work, how organized I am, how creative I am, how good I'm working and organizing together with other people, and to get this done. And we did get this done. But this was a hustle with an end in sight. It was quite clear that for 6 weeks we really had to work our butts off, and then we would be able, first of all, to take somewhat of a break and then to work in a normal rhythm, and we were also compensated for that accordingly. But if this would have been a hustle until eternity, it would have been great for our careers, but we would have worked ourselves into the ground. We would have worked towards burnout for sure. So you can also burn out for the right reason because you know you will set yourself up for a good professional career in the future, as it was in this example for me. But I would have burned out for this right reason if this is a working procedure and a rhythm that would have continued for years or forever. So it's not just the type of why, but also how long do you work and how long do you hustle and when can you start and actually take a step back that I would argue is really important.
I say this all the time, like nobody tells farmers to stop working so hard.
Yeah.
Nobody tells professional athletes.
Yep.
Did you, in your years of working with professional athletes, were any of them like, oh, this is too much hustle?
No.
Never. What was their mindset?
Their mindset is if I do X, Y, and Z right now through the off season in this, I get a bigger contract. I get a bigger. So there was always a focus on the future. There was always a focus on like the long-term goal.
Hard work always pays off.
Yes, it does. It always pays off.
Yeah.
And
it's like,
yeah. It's funny because I even think of like from the sports world and stuff, it's like I think of like college coaches, especially like football, where it's like as soon as the season's end, like most college coaches, you'll see guys leave, go take another position. Like the head coach, literally that turnaround after a season, they're going right into recruiting.
Dude.
They don't stop. They don't. It's a year-round process of like, okay, this is over. Now we need a next wave of greatness. We got to go find those guys.
Yes.
So it doesn't stop. Like some of the most like predominant positions everywhere all over the world are positions where you do not turn off. And that sounds bad, but it's like, that's some of the times that, it requires that.
That can still be toxic. You can only hope that people who work in the sports field, which can be very demanding, understand the requirements for that job. That is a burnout yet again in the making because it is also healthy to rest, especially if you have to work hard physically or as a coach also mentally, and you have to recruit people, not MLM recruit, but in the sports field recruit people. If you work 24/7, if you work around the clock, if you don't take a step back, that is toxic and that is exhausting, even in this example.
Well, you know what? We just did this program with Tony Robbins.
Yes.
So we just wrapped it up.
Yeah.
Tony trained and taught about seasons.
Yes.
And he talks about there's winter, obviously winter, after that comes spring, after that comes, so we know all the seasons, right? So Tony talked about how us being in our 30s right now, we are very much in a summer season. When you're young and you're in high school and college, you're in the spring of your life. It's like all new and you really don't have a lot of, work that you need to put in because you're really like in a learning season,
You're
right?
just trying to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, you're figuring out your identity. There's so much of like self-discovery in those years. And then you like get into your 20s and 30s and you're like, you are now in the summer season, followed by fall. And then when you're in your later years in life would be winter.
Like retirement.
Yeah, retirement years, right? So yeah, we're very much in the prime of our life. Like when you're working in your purpose and you're doing something that actually matters for the long run, like when you zoom out, you don't resent the hustle.
Yeah.
You don't resent the hard days, the long days, the blood, sweat, and the tears, the times where you fall flat on your face. You're like, okay, well, this is part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I look back and I'm like, I have been burnt out before. I've also been on top of my game, winning and all the things. I've been in the peaks and the valleys.
Yeah.
I don't resent any of it.
No.
Because it's all brought me here, and that's the bigger picture we're talking about.
And you cannot, and I think so many people who are burnout and, claim the toxic hustle culture and whatnot, they are doing the opposite of what you just said. They're not aware of those things. They're not, they get lost in just the work of it and not the reasons of why you're doing it,
Or even the recognition of the work.
Yes.
Or like, look at me type of energy.
Yes.
Which is never going to really fulfill you.
Yeah.
And I think if you're like stuck in toxic hustle culture, you're probably doing it for outside validation.
Yeah.
Not Tony Robbins again, right? That is the MLM connection. I mean, maybe this is still a topic for people or the podcast to recruit people as well, because the MLM connection is strong. Tony Robbins is horrible. Just saying. It's not inspirational to listen to that person. There's a close connection to multi-level marketing and to those self-help gurus. And that's why you can hear that a lot. And Tony Robbins is just one example of many toxic self-help gurus. If you realize that you're close to a burnout because you work too much, that is not good. No matter what you do this for, no matter whether you're in your 30s, no matter if you want to set yourself up for success in retirement, if you realize that you're working too much and that you don't set the correct boundaries, that is bad no matter what. What are the actual learnings from this? You realize something goes wrong, you reevaluate, you move forward in a different style so that you don't work towards a burnout. Let's not give this a positive spin because you know what you're working towards. I do hear a lot of MLM speak in this podcast as well, because not everything is positive. Just because you work really, really hard and you work yourself into the ground and you know what you're doing it for, that is not something that is positive. Not everything has to be positive. That, in that case, is actually called toxic positivity. And this comes from someone who was also on her Instagram, who pitched Monat to her followers back then. I will also link the video up here if you're interested in this. And she was able to take a step back because she was able to build a big enough downline and also to focus on her baby within the first couple of months so that her team was able to take over the work and so that they were able to work themselves into the ground. Because she was able to focus on something else than on Monat. That was her typical pitch.
Or you're doing it for other people to see you, the titles, the accolades. None of that really matters at the end of the day.
Yes.
You don't build a legacy with accolades and titles.
No.
You build it with impact and purpose.
And you have to constantly be checking yourself and be aware of that, because we're all human. It's like if something good happens for us, like, you feel a little, your ego go a little bit, like we all get those feelings, but it's like, you have to keep them in check of like, why are you doing what you're doing?
So I think when it comes to hustling, obviously boundaries are important.
Yes.
And it's so healthy to have ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's seasons and everything. And there can also be seasons within your month. There can be seasons within your week, right? So we really we hustle hard during the week and we really try to honor weekends.
Yeah.
We try to take time for just us and our family on the weekends where we're like unplugged. Nobody matters except for us and what we're doing. And maybe we're going out, we're going to brunch, we're going to the zoo, whatever.
Yeah.
But we have time for each other so that in the week we feel like we can get back into that rhythm of hustle. But boundaries are so important here. And I think that's something we've learned a lot lately too.
Yeah. And that's, maybe you're listening to this and you're about to enter a season of hustle, or you're so burnt out and from how it basically hurt you last time, you don't want to go back there. I would say you have to enter it with the boundary. Even us, we walked into this new phase of our life, starting a podcast, other businesses we're doing. It's like we literally sat down and we're like, hey, we're not upset, but like we're not satisfied with where we're at right now in life. We know we're going to have to hustle again. We know we're going to have to push ourselves. So like, let's set up these boundaries right now, especially like in our relationship and everything. Like these, you got to make the non-negotiables. Like you just said, like a time with your family, like that's a non-negotiable. Like these things, if you have those boundaries, you'll be able to really manage that hustle and work, because you know you have these, you know, other pockets set up where you can take time off, where you can hang out with your kids, where you can. And it's like we sat down and we were like, hey, I want to get here with this, so it's going to require this amount of time. And that's, you know, me being like, okay, well, I can shift here and then you shift there and then we'll make it work. And I won't resent you for working harder. You won't resent me for working harder. It's like the honest conversations and the boundaries.
Yeah.
Even if you're not married or if you're single, you still have to set boundaries for yourself. Like, hey, on Tuesday, I'm going to work out, or on this day, I'm going to visit a friend. It's like, you still have to set boundaries.
They were not satisfied they were at, but instead of putting the work into Monate now, they're putting the work now into stuff like this, into actual content creation like the podcast, and into the coaching business. That is interesting. And I agree, set your boundaries. That is a good tip. But does that mean that Monate is not doing well and they've realized it's really not worth our efforts and we need to build something else?
Yeah, I think I work with so many women, and so many of them struggle with working for themselves because maybe it's new for them, or they don't have the boundaries set up in their life. Yeah. And I think another thing that really can end up being toxic is when you are working, but you don't have boundaries within your work. So what I mean by that is I'm working, I'm scrolling. I'm working, I'm watching, I'm not honoring my own boundaries of the things that I said I wanted. And this takes so much follow through. It takes so much. You have to keep the promises you make to yourself. This is not easy. This is why most people don't have a healthy relationship with their work, and they don't get things done while also being able to enjoy their life. I can say that we hustle hard. We work really, really hard, but we also enjoy our life.
Totally.
We also really, really enjoy our time together, and we really enjoy our family time and the times when we're off. Yeah. Because when we're working, we're working. Yeah. And we're like showing up for it. And then when we're off, we're showing up for each other. Yeah. I mean, we're not perfect, but we do pretty good at it because we really are strong about this.
Yeah. I'm not like, it's even entering 2023. It's like, we always not joke around, but we're serious joke a little bit, but it's like we pick a word for the year every time. I know a lot of people do this. And like, I remember we were on a walk and I was like, my word for this year is intentionality. Yeah. It was like, I want to be very intentional, because I knew we were entering a season of, you know, going to be all over the place. Dawson, work, this podcast. It's like, whatever we're doing, it's going to be intentional. And it's like, I'm trying to stick to that.
My word for this year was create.
Yeah.
Create. So like,
that's what we're doing.
Creating, creating new businesses, creating new content, creating new income streams, literally. And creation takes so much intentionality, but it does take hustle. Like there's times when I am working late, or I'm quickly doing something on my phone, or doing a multitasking. I'm literally, before we started recording, I had to log into a meeting, then I had to mute, and then I had to start recording. Like, we just have to make it work sometimes.
And maybe this, I don't know, maybe this isn't a healthy tip, but
we're here for the real.
A tip I use for myself with, like, if I'm in a moment or a bad spot where I'm complaining, or I'm like upset that I didn't get the result I wanted, or whatever it is, I literally sit there and I'm like, okay, what would a David Goggins tell me? What would a Jordan Peterson say? What would these people like, you know, if you brought your complaints to some of like the highest achieving people, what would they say to you?
Be like, that's cute.
They'd be like, get over it. Try another path. Do this. Change it up. Don't stop. Like, you know what I mean?
They probably cursed you out and saying you're being a little baby back bitch.
But it's like, everyone looks up to these people. But
yeah, it's true.
They bash the way they did what they did. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they hustled their asses off to get where they needed to be. You know, it's like, and maybe it was unhealthy, but then they probably found their boundaries on the way. And that's what we've done. And that's what other people need to do. You have to have systems and boundaries.
Hustle in an unhealthy way until you have achieved it. What about people who will never achieve their goals? They don't have an end point to this hustle. And that's why it is toxic hustle culture. It is toxic to work towards a goal that you hope you might achieve, but you will very likely never achieve. And now we're back at the example of multi-level marketing, of network marketing. Maybe some of the women she said she worked with were not able to set their boundaries because somebody recruited them into the system while promising something that would very likely not happen to them in a business model that is set up for most people to fail. Maybe some of the women she worked with were lured into a system with a promise that they're able to make a substantial income. They have to hustle now, they have to work really hard now, but it will pay off in the long run, where you could get residual income, legacy income, sustainable income, all of that bullshit we hear over and over in multi-level marketing companies, which is simply not true. Most people in MLMs will lose money. Maybe that is why they're not able to set boundaries, because they're working towards hopes and wishes that people who are at the top of the company, in my opinion, know very well is not a reality for most. Maybe they're having a hard time to set boundaries because they idolize the people that are successful in multi-level marketing companies. False hopes and promises are very prominent in MLMs because most people will simply not make money. And if those who recruited others into this business opportunity were honest, then they wouldn't be able to recruit most of the people. Who are the people that are recruited into Monate, for example, or in any other multi-level marketing company? People who do not need to have any prior experience in MLMs, in sales, in product knowledge when it comes to whatever products you have to shill there. Why? Because you have the almighty, all-knowing uplines who allegedly have all of the systems in place, who can teach you. Just need to listen to them, and then even you can achieve that. It is hard to set boundaries in such a system. It is my boundary to not join an MLM.
I think that also hustle and creating something takes urgency.
Totally.
And sometimes there's not balance when you have urgency.
Yeah.
When you have urgency, sometimes it's like hard and it's go and it's speed and it's like trying to figure out what works, and so much of that is just like it's messy.
Yeah.
And so I think we live in a world where, because of social media looking so pretty, and we see people and we see their chapter 10, we see their result, we see the video that they post, we see the car that they drive, we see the lifestyle that they have.
Yes.
We're like, it just must be so perfect for them. Like,
must be nice.
Right. Like, we're just like, it looks so polished. And you didn't see the long nights, the late nights, the tears, the failures, the lost money. You don't see that stuff. So we have to check ourselves and really fix our perception of success.
Yeah.
Because nobody tells athletes to sit down and stop working so hard. They know the harder that they work, the more their results they're going to get. And that's honestly my mentality.
Yeah.
That is ironic, though, because she admittedly joined Monate because of what she saw on social media, the alleged success other people had. She didn't know much about Monate. She wanted to participate in the car program to get a free Cadillac, which is totally not free. And she didn't even know what she had to do. So she joined Monate because she was enticed by what she saw from other people on social media, the same highlight reel, without really knowing and understanding how fake all of that was and how much work these people had to put into being successful in Monate. Or in my opinion, how much people they also had to scam to be successful in Monate. So she joined because of that perception, and then she did the very same thing to others and recruited them so that she could be successful as well.
I know in my mind, the harder I work, the more results I'm going to get.
Well, in the harder
and it's finding that dance of pushing myself to my limit so that I can sustain that and keep coming back to that.
That might make sense in other businesses, that you need to work harder to achieve your goals, or you put in more time and more effort, yes, but not in a multi-level marketing company, because your success in an MLM doesn't depend on your own hard work. It depends on the hard work of the people on your team below you, on the products they purchase, the people they recruit, the products they are able to sell. Being successful in an MLM is not based on your own hard work. It is based on your team's hard work. When people in multi-level marketing companies tell you they were successful because they were working super hard and they were the hardest workers in the room, then that is a myth, that is a legend, or you could also say a lie, because there is so much more that goes into being successful in an MLM than your own hard work. That is only a starting point, and most of the other things are things you can hardly control. Number one, timing. When did you join the MLM? Was the market saturated? Is it a new MLM where you're able to likely rise in the ranks more quickly? Do you already have a social media following? If you live in the middle of nowhere, you have no clue about social media, you have no clue and no interest in social media, it is likely you're not as successful as somebody who lives in a city that is really interesting and attractive to people, you already have a social media following, then the likelihood of you being able to be successful is greater. Are you an outgoing personality? Are you good at approaching people? Are you good at small talk? Then it is likely for you to be more successful than somebody who doesn't have that ability. Do you have a big social group of people to pitch to? That is mostly the starting point. Pitch to family and friends, pitch it to your warm market, the new business opportunity and the products, and then take it from there. So if you have a big group of people around you, it is more likely that you're able to be successful than somebody who doesn't have that. Are you an attractive individual? Social media is a highlight reel, and when you post something on social media and you're attractive, it is more likely that people will like to watch you, will like to look at you, will like to follow you, and therefore you have an advantage over somebody who is not considered as conventionally attractive as you. Are you well spoken? Are you good at typing out content and expressing yourself? Or are you not that good? Are you stumbling over your words every other sentence? Then the likelihood of you, if you're well spoken, to be successful and to convince other people to join you and to purchase from you is greater than somebody who is not that outspoken.
And deep down, it's like, even if you've been hurt by toxic hustle culture, it's like, if you have things you want to achieve, you're going to have to get back in the pool of hustle. Because it's like, look at like the Jeff Bezos. When he was in his garage, he was probably hustling his butt off to get what he needed done. And honestly, everyone around him, his friends, they were probably looking at him like, look at this guy. Like, in a garage, you think you're really going to start a business? You know how many haters he probably had, or like the negativity around him? And it's like, look what he's done. Dude. It's because he didn't give up and he kept going. And obviously he had to probably pivot along the way, but it's like.
Well, I'll say to that point, when we were living in our split level home in Charlotte, North Carolina, I was working my business from the ground up in our spider basement. It was literally an old home, so there were so many spiders in this house. Like, literally, we would find cockroaches and spiders in this house every single day. I was working in that environment. I was hustling so hard because I knew that if I hustled for a short amount of time, it's like everything's temporary, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing that makes us, I think that.
Oh, so good.
It's like our biggest mistake is believing that everything is permanent.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's temporary. I'm hustling right now. What is 1 year of hustle in the grand scheme of things? Who cares?
Yeah.
Put your head down, shut up, get to work. Like, and that was my mindset. I was like, if I can hustle my ass off right now for a year, for 2 years, what is that in the grand scheme of things? We are now at 30, almost 34 years old. And I started my current business, coming up on 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I did in this past 6 years what some people never do in their lifetime. And I'm not here to bash anybody, but I'm just saying that I did create something out of so much hustle and drive that it then allowed us to like actually have breathing room, actually get out of debt, actually like figure out what we want in our life. Yeah. And there's so many people who live their entire life and they never get to have that.
Absolutely not. Circumstances matter. She is in Monate. That's the business she's talking about. And she was able to be successful because she joined Monate early. Most people who join an MLM do not have the luxury to hustle hard for a year or two and then they've achieved something. That is bogus. If she was able to join Monate some 7 years ago now, then she has completely different work circumstances than somebody who joins now in a super saturated market where a lot of people are aware how toxic and how bad Monate and the multi-level marketing business model is. In an industry where most people will not succeed, hustling for a year or 2 years to then reap the benefits of your hard work is not an option. because that will not happen for most people. And those examples of actual entrepreneurs like Jeff Bezos, that's also bogus, because he had a business and he had a product and he had a business model that was desirable for other people. He started that in his garage. He was able to sell and he was able to change the business model as he went along. And that's how we know Amazon as it is now. He hustled for his business, he adjusted along the way, and that's how he was able to build a successful business. He was not an independently contracted salesperson for a multi-level marketing company where most people do not see a return on their investment.
Yeah.
So hustle is necessary. I loved that hustle period of my life.
Yes.
It taught me so much. I made so many mistakes. I learned so much from it, but it literally made me who I am today.
Absolutely.
So don't bash the hustle.
No.
I think hustle is important in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable. I'm sorry. Was anyone telling me in my spider basement to stop hustling?
No.
Jeff Bezos, stop hustling. So
I
you
know.
should just sit down.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs,
There's
Ed
countless
Milet.
stories. Everyone you look up to has an insane hustle story. It's just that's the truth.
The thing is like knowing it's not permanent. Like it's not permanent. It's a temporary thing.
And that's something I feel like we've practiced a lot lately over the past year, 2 years, is like zoom out. If things feel very tough, if things aren't like going exactly how you want, like zoom out. Why are you doing what you're doing? What, like, do you have to change something, implement a new system? Like there's always a way around the obstacle.
Well, I also think like expectations versus reality, right?
Totally.
So it's like ask yourself so if you zoom out and you say, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be in 5 years from now? We have always been super clear on what we want. We know we want to build our dream home. We want to raise our family on a farm. We know we want to have multiple properties. We're working on our Airbnb portfolio.
Yep.
We're working on so many different things
Yes.
that we can't wait to share all the things with you guys on the show. But whenever I've zoomed out, I'm like expectation versus reality.
Yeah.
If I expect these things to happen, what is the reality of what it's going to take, right?
It's so
going to
true.
take sacrifice. It's going to take some hustle. It takes us having overly communicating sometimes because
there was times we did not communicate and it got ugly,
because our boundaries
Yes.
sucked, right?
Yes.
So all of this stuff, just like it all comes together. And I think if you can fix your mentality on it's temporary,
Yeah.
it's about boundaries, it's about self-awareness, and it's about what you really do you want for your life, expectation versus reality. And I think like you can absolutely shift your perspective of hustle.
Hustle is temporary. That could be true for certain jobs or for you learning. You go to school, you go to university, and you really need to push through to gather all of the information to get your education and all of that, or the beginnings of a job, yes. But hustle is not temporary in an MLM. That is yet again a myth. You join a multi-level marketing company and you want to make the substantial money, you will have to work around the clock. Hustling for a year or two and understanding it's temporary is not a thing in network marketing. Even the top people have to work a lot. Recruit, sell, jump on team calls to keep the people that you recruited on your team. Then when they leave, you need to jump on opportunity calls to recruit more people, to sell more product, and then this entire thing continues. You will never be able to just sit back and reap the benefits of what you achieved because this is a constant hustle, and that's why this is considered toxic hustle culture, because you never receive an endpoint, you never receive retirement, you never receive the end of your workways. You will not be able to build a substantial business because people fall off super quickly and you need to replenish the people that you recruited over your time in the MLM. Even if you were really successful at this, you can never take a step back. You will always have to continue to do so, or your team will shrink to the degree that you're not able to make the money any more than you were able to do years down the line. And I would argue it's the same for her. That's why she's now on a podcast, get other properties, other business model that she's advising us to. That's why you can pay her so she can take a look at your social media and tell you what you need to change in your biography, what you need to change to be successful on Instagram. That's why she's currently not pushing Monate on this podcast. Monate is not doing well anymore. And even for somebody like this, who joined some 7 years ago, this is visible. She's not able to make the money she was able to make at the high times during Monate, when all the people wanted to join Monate because they thought it was absolutely sexy and the super craze, or a safe way to make money during the pandemic, for example. That is why she now has to figure out actual other streams of income besides Monate. And good luck with Airbnb. Properties is never a bad idea if you don't have financial pressure, but if you're financially under pressure when you need to sell property, then you will lose out on a lot of money.
You can learn to love the hustle.
It's true.
Because there's nothing that feels like better, in my opinion,
Yeah.
than working hard for something and then seeing it happen and being
Yeah.
like, I did that.
Yeah. And that's, for me, stuff always goes back to like fitness. And that's why I love working out and fitness so much, because to achieve any goal you want, there's no other way around it but to hustle in
Yeah.
the gym. Like, it's the pain that, if you want to grow your muscles, you got to, feel the effects of getting under the iron, like that type of thing, So
Yeah, but you cannot compare workout or muscle growth in a gym, you working with progressive overload, to working in a multi-level marketing company. Those are completely different topics.
it's like, it always goes back to that for me.
Yeah. And I know there's this like right now on TikTok, everyone's talking about soft girl era.
Sure.
And I get it. And here's one
Totally.
thing that I will say, being a female and understanding the difference between feminine and masculine energy.
Yes.
And being able to have that dichotomy of being in both. So when I'm in, we talked about this yesterday in our walk,
did.
right? We were like, sometimes it's masculine energy that I
Yes.
have to show up in. And it's like, it's grindy, but then turning off work
Yeah.
and literally turning off that masculine energy and being able to be in my feminine with
Yeah.
you as a wife
Yeah.
and as a mother. And it's funny because there's even times where you've said to me, like one time I was having a really hard time putting Dawson down to sleep, and he was really like just not wanting to go to bed.
Yeah.
And I was like so frustrated. I was like, what's going on? What's happening here? And later you reflected back to me and he's like, he probably felt your energy.
Totally.
And I was still like in that masculine energy.
Like, you just got off a call or like
yeah,
just
and like
finished work.
when I like get off a meeting, I'm like,
Like, come on, man, why aren't you going to sleep?
Why even define masculine or feminine energy, though? You can have different types of energy depending on the tasks that you have to do. That doesn't have to be a definition of masculine or feminine.
my child's like, mommy, like, can you just like chill out?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like understanding as a woman, because obviously you're male, and with that masculine energy, that's where you live primarily.
Yeah.
And it's important to be able to, I think as a female, to be able to be in your feminine, because that's how we're designed. And that's a whole nother conversation that we can talk about one day, feminine and
Sure.
masculine energies.
Yeah.
But for me, I know that when I'm in work mode, Erica, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm hustle energy.
Yeah.
I'm masculine energy.
Yeah.
But then I turn off and then let's bake bread. I want to cuddle my baby. I want to like cuddle my husband.
Yeah.
I want to go on a walk. So I truly want to tell anyone who is afraid of that, maybe because you want to attract a strong man or because you're struggling in your relationship, you can have both.
Yeah.
It's an art, it's a dance, and it's figuring out how you can be in both energies, but you really can. And I can say that there's times where I like get off a call, and you've even said it to me before. It's like, whew, like
Yeah.
I like turn off, and I'm like, okay, hi.
It's
like,
fun. I've even
let's
seen
cuddle
you
now.
I've even seen you like be on a call with, I don't know, someone, and you're not, I don't want to say tearing into them like it's a bad thing, but like you literally are like, this is what you got to do. Like, you can do this, you can achieve this. And it's very masculine and strong. And then like the minute the call ends, you're like a puddle of mush walking over to the couch, like, hold me. Like that. It's like, it's so funny to watch sometimes.
It's true.
Yeah.
And that's the both and I think maybe we can close it there.
Yeah.
You can have hustle and you can have rest.
Yeah.
You can have achievement and you can also have stillness.
Yeah.
I think you can have both things. And so neither is bad or good. It's what you assign to it.
Yeah.
And it's your perception of it.
It's not just the perception you assign to something. Some things can be objectively speaking good or bad. You burning out because of toxic hustle culture will not get better because you assign something positive to that. That is just stupid. You burning out will not get better because you pretend it is positive.
But I have found that learning to master the hustle instead of letting it master you
Yeah.
has been the biggest game changer for me in my life. And because there's been seasons of my life where I'm like, I don't know how long I can do this.
Yeah.
This feels like a lot. I can't sustain this level of like energy.
Yeah.
And it's because I thought that was like how I needed to be all the time.
Maybe that should have been a red flag, because even you hustling for a year or 2 years and you're feeling it is too much, that is also a sign where you can say, I might need to take a step back. It should have been a red flag.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be that all the time.
Okay, so maybe this is more of a controversial take of that, but it's like in those seasons and people who are really affected by the hustle culture, at the end of the day, it is you who made choices to go where you were going, and you kind of put yourself in that, even if you don't want to admit it. But it's like, I think where I don't want to like annoyed, but it's like, stop blaming hustle. Hustle achieves so much, and it's like, start looking in the mirror.
Take responsibility for your action, yes, but context matters. To take the MLM business model as an example yet again, where it is promoted to you if you work hard now, if you hustle now, if you recruit enough people now, that way you will create a sustainable income, a legendary income that can feed you and the generations to come. But that is simply false. And when you realize that you will not be able to achieve this, and you will have to work harder and longer and for a longer period than you expected, then you need to think about this positively. Don't question the person that told you, no, you can do it. You just need to work hard for a certain period of time, then it will all fall into place. You will do it, but you need to sit it out a bit longer, work harder. And you're required to cover up this consistent hustle with positive thoughts. That is not positivity. That is called manipulation of humans.
And that's, if you change things in the mirror, like if you change your systems, boundaries, implementation, how you want to do things, you will get around it, and you don't have to blame a movement, and and you can be a part of the hustle and achieve what you need to achieve.
Yeah, it's a very hot topic right now.
It is.
It's very marketable.
It is.
It's also very profitable to say, hey, let me tell you not to hustle. I'll teach you a better way.
Yeah.
Think about it. Really? You know, we're not here trying to sell you anything.
It seems to be profitable the other way around too. Like having a podcast where you appreciate toxic hustle culture. That's why we're on a podcast now where we're talking about toxic hustle culture, and that hustle is not a bad thing.
And we're literally just telling you.
Well, and at the end of the day, it's one of the oldest sayings. It's like, misery loves company.
You're actually trying to sell us something. It's called toxic hustle culture, work hard and how to build a sustainable business. For somebody who is now venturing into coaching, business coaching, teaching you how to utilize social media to create a sustainable business, or to try and lure you into Monade, to where you can also try to create a sustainable business, which will not happen. We're not just talking about this topic here to help others. It's a way for her to further her business and to connect to people who might find this topic attractive.
So if you didn't achieve something, or if if your goals weren't met, and if you were going at them a very unhealthy way, it's pretty easy to turn around and be like, who else didn't achieve their goals? Come be with me.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And that's, I know some people don't want to hear that, but it's like, you can join that crowd and you're collectively going to achieve nothing, or you can change how you look at hustle and get after it.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Wow. Well, on that note, if there's anything you want to add to the conversation, head over to Instagram.
That is not powerful. I'm also going to stop this misery here because there's going to be an outro, and I don't want to pitch this again for music reasons. This is not powerful, okay? This is not powerful for people who are in an MLM. That is gaslighting. That is actually toxic. And it is also not powerful for people who are not as privileged as these two are, who admittedly were able to study what they wanted to study. They were able to work in their dream jobs, and then their dream jobs didn't turn out what they expected them to be. Other people do not have those advantages. So it is very high and mighty to completely disregard that not everybody can work hard and hustle and can define their future. That is simply false. Consider the circumstances. It is really important, I think, to not just scream out blatant platitudes, but it is important. What type of business do you want to do? What kind of education do you have? Do you work in an MLM business where most people will lose money, or in a classical job where you will be able to further what you're doing there? Work hard, That is necessary at certain times, but also rest. That is just as important. And if somebody tells you it is okay for you to work for a year or two to really hustle, who cares? You will get out of this. That is a red flag. Consider your privilege. Some people are more privileged than others. If you're able to study what you want to study, if you are born in a country with the ability to profit off of the education that that country can give you, as it is, for example, in Germany. I don't put myself into debt if I want to study here. Public universities are available for free. That is a huge privilege, and I think it is also important to consider that as opposed to others who do not have that privilege. And there will be periods in your life where you will have to work hard, whether it's a classic job, a 9-to-5 job, a corporate job. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to build your own business. There will always be phases in your life where you will have to work hard. That is very important as well, to learn how you push through difficult times, because you will not be able to achieve something if you're just relaxed all the time and you don't even try to work hard or to further your business or to further your knowledge. Yes, those can be hard times, but it's important to stop in advance when you realize that you're working towards this toxic hustle culture. Working is not toxic, but the toxic hustle culture is. So it is also a talent to realize when to stop, when to take a step back, when to reconsider and change things so that you do not burn out. And how do you do that? Well, for starters, don't join an MLM. That was the Toxic Hustle podcast, the entree, if you will, into the topic of toxic hustle culture. I have a lot of clips and I have a lot of materials from people who are currently in multi-level marketing companies who speak very positively about the toxic 24/7 culture in MLMs. This is kind of the entryway into this, and if you're interested and you don't want to miss any of the upcoming videos that have to do with toxic hustle culture in multi-level marketing companies, then please consider subscribing. If you like this specific video, give it a thumbs up. If you would like to let me know something, then please do so in the comment section down below. And if you like these types of videos, then hopefully I will see you in my next one. Until then, tschüss!